Gervais Restaurant, authentic French cuisine in Silicon Valley.
Our strategy fundamentally in the enterprise is around what we call customer engagement applications. And fundamentally it comes down to the fact that many companies have spent a lot of money automating and streamlining their internal processes behind the firewall. And they've got all these applications going. And it's really about helping people inside the company get their work done faster, which is very important and valuable. But if you think about where value is actually created in a company, it's not always within your four walls. Where it actually comes from is your interactions with customers, your interaction with your distribution networks and your suppliers, all of which are outside your organization. And so we spent the last 20 years of enterprise IT optimizing inside, and now it's time to actually look at optimizing outside. Some signs that there's a problem here is you look at call centers are overburdened, and you have more and more traffic going through call centers, and yet people don't like to be serviced through call centers. They find it to be frustrating, difficult, they wait for a long time, people can't answer their questions. It's challenging. You have paper-based processing. We expect people to fill out forms, and then they mail the forms in, and then we ship the forms to India, and somebody in India types in all the information, and then we start to act on it. And that results in really long processing times. It just takes a long time. There are errors that are committed. People lose the paperwork. They fill it out improperly. You have to go back to the customer. It's really the dark ages out there in many businesses in terms of how they deal with their customers. If you look at what's happening behind their firewall, it's all very automated and streamlined, but outside it's very different. That ends up meaning that things are too expensive and they take too long, but also it adds to missed opportunities for revenue, for making customer relationships and for servicing customers faster and growing the business. And we think that this is actually going to be the thing that drives the next wave of value for companies, is really orienting the business around the customer experience and how they reach those people through distributors and also around their supply chain. So we call this the engagement gap, which is how do you take your enterprise to your external constituents? And we think the answer is to do what we call engagement at the enterprise edge. And this comes up in a lot of different processes. If you think about the process of opening an account for a brokerage account or an insurance policy or something else, you have to end up talking to a person, fill out this long piece of information, then you submit it to them. Then it goes through all these processes that are error prone and costly that we talked about before. And then at the end of it, they have to give you kind of a customized set of documents that are personalized for you. They give you your quote or your insurance policy and such. Portfolio management, statement generation, e-government, e-commerce. All these are, you think about it, they're business processes that are fundamentally external in nature. This is the type of problems or type of use cases that we're focused on addressing. Now, the reason that we're focused there is that we have a set of technology that's uniquely differentiated in this area. And really at the high level, it's what we call the Adobe Engagement Platform. And the Adobe Engagement Platform is designed to help organizations connect with their customers. Okay, and it builds on top of all of the existing applications and infrastructure that they've already invested in and that they've got in place, but it allows you to extract value from that and extend it to your customers so you can engage with them beyond the edge of your enterprise four walls. And the pieces there that are critical are the cross-platform runtimes, like the Flash Player, like the Adobe Reader for the PDF technology, and in the future runtimes like Apollo, which you may have seen demos of on yesterday's keynotes. These runtimes are technology that augments what we have in the browser, adds to it, doesn't replace it, makes it more effective, and allows you to create a better user experience. So that experience could be a rich internet application that's helping somebody get through the process of entering all this data, giving them advice and guidance along the way so that they don't make a mistake. It could be a PDF that actually allows them to fill out a form offline and save it and then submit it. But these are enhanced mechanisms for people to deal electronically with your organization. Same for customers and suppliers and partners. So we have these technologies. They run on Windows, they run on Mac, they run on Linux. They are broadly adopted. Flash is on 98% of all PCs already. PDF is on slightly less than that, but a very significant number of people have PDF technology or the reader there, ready to go. And that is something that's our gift to the world, if you will. I mean, we have developed this technology, we give it away for free, we've enabled the whole world to have better experiences through our clients. Now, what we offer on top of that then is, on top of the clients, the programming models and frameworks that developers need to use to build applications that actually run in those runtimes. And that's things like Flex and things like our lifecycle XFA technology, which allows you to define these applications that run in the runtimes. And then you need a set layer of technology that actually connects the applications into your existing infrastructure. And you also need specialized services for generating documents, applying security and such. And so we have a set of technology there. So you can think about, in terms of products, we've got Flash Player and Reader, we've got Flex and our XFA technology, and we've got our lifecycle services that are a set of server products that sit on your existing infrastructure and extend it to the end users. So we've got a fully integrated stack of technology that is focused on solving these issues in this particular domain, and we think this is going to be something that is very interesting to people, and we in fact know that it is, because although we're refining this and taking it forward in a lot of very interesting ways, this is something that we've had great success doing up in the last 3 years, both at Macromedia and at Adobe, and now in the last year, the combined companies.
Gervais Restaurant, authentic French cuisine in Silicon Valley.
It's been great to come to Max and see the interest that companies have here, or in this stack of technology. And it's very different than what other companies are doing. There's nobody else in the industry that's focused on this engagement layer in the same way that we are. That is focused.
There are content management.
There's content management companies, there's database companies, there's application server companies, portal companies. Yeah. There's all kinds of different infrastructure software vendors out there, and they offer the stuff that's mostly down in this area. Now, those technologies, everything we just described, is useful in this context. Like, it's nice to have a content management system so you can have a place to put your documents. It's nice to have databases because that's where customer records live. It's nice to have SFA systems and ERP systems, and it's nice to have portals as a way of providing security on top of that. But when it comes down to what is the user actually using, many of those vendors have not made that a focus. What is the part that the customer actually touches and interacts with that makes a difference between whether a process takes 10 minutes or an hour? That's something where we've uniquely focused, and it's because we have a unique set of technologies, the Reader and the Flash Player. Okay, does that answer your question?
Right. So what does how does the Reader and the Flash Player answers the?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, for example, with a traditional, let's just use a basic example of a form. So you have an HTML form. Well, an HTML form can't work offline. Right. So if you're in the process of filling out a very long mortgage application, it's got a lot of data that you need to enter. It's got bank information, it's got your social security number, a lot of information you need to enter into it, some of which you may not have while you're there online. So suppose you want to save that offline, go home, and then fill it out later, or fill it out while you're on the train or on an airplane. You can't do that in the web because it doesn't work in a disconnected mode. PDF Reader, or the Adobe Reader, has the technology to be able to store the data offline and allow you to fill it out, and then when you're connected, it can upload the data to the server. That's just one simple example. Similarly for Flash Player. A lot of times when you're selecting a mortgage, for example, there are a lot of options. There's hundreds and hundreds of different mortgages you could potentially look at. So you can look through a table list of all the different mortgages, but that doesn't really help you and I, because we're not mortgage experts. Maybe the first time we bought a house. We don't buy houses all the time. And so with the Flash Player, you have the ability to do data visualization, where you can see what the interest rates and costs are going to be for the mortgage over time. You can see the differences between different mortgages, and you can sort and filter in a very interactive way the different information. So it takes a very daunting problem, which is dealing with a database of 1,000 mortgages, to getting down to the one that's right for you. And through visualization techniques, we can make that much, much easier. And Flash Player has the graphics technology, the rendering technology, to be able to have that user experience. Also, if you wanted to incorporate video. So let's say there's a adjustable rate mortgage and a fixed rate mortgage. Well, you could read a lot about the differences between those two, or we could show you a video that talks about the differences between the two. And we could show that right in the context of the application, not having to go off to some separate site. Because the Flash Player incorporates audio, video, and graphics together, it makes the user, helps the user deal with complex data sets much more easily. Does that make sense? So those are all things that would be very challenging to overcome with just the web browser. Doesn't mean the web browser is bad, but this is where the web browser starts to run out of gas. The reader and Flash Player technology fills in the gap, and that makes it a great helper to the end user experience. So, does that answer your question? Yeah. So this really is our focus. And when I said we're unique relative to the other vendors, it's just that we don't threaten or compete with those vendors in their core businesses. We integrate with them. So we integrate with content management systems, we integrate with application servers, we integrate with databases, we integrate with all these different systems and allow you to access that data but manifest it in a way that creates value for the organization. And that's the essence of our focus in the enterprise. The way I've described it here, it's a very general purpose set of technology for solving problems in this area. The way that we're taking this to market from a sales perspective and from a marketing perspective is focused on vertical industries. So, for example, financial services, government, manufacturing, and life sciences are all areas that we are investing in. And what we do is we package up best practices, methodologies, case studies, and specialized value statements that are particular to an industry. So when we go back to these customer engagement applications that I talked about earlier, all of these scenarios that are listed here are vertically oriented. New account opening, it shows up a lot in the financial services industry. Portfolio management, also financial services. Statement generation, many industries have that, but financial services and others have it as well. Clinical trial management, that one's very specific to the license, to the life sciences industry. So when you have a new drug that you're trying to bring to market, you have to test it with thousands and thousands of patients in hundreds of clinics across the country. That's a very complex data collection. You have to provide information in a secure way because it's proprietary information about the trial. You don't want all your competitors to know about what's going on. You have to gather all of the data. The clinics have to gather data, and then they have to enter it in and submit it back to you, while at the same time protecting patients' privacy. And then you have to be able to collect that data, and then you have to gather it up in a structured form and send it off to the government for approval. It's a very complex process, but most of the hard parts of it relate to what you do with the government and what you do with all these doctors all over the country. That's an example of one of these customer engagement processes that we can really help with. And so we don't go out today and just say, well, anybody who has a customer engagement problem, come to Adobe. we go specifically to the life sciences industry and say, here's how we can make clinical trial management more affordable and while still complying with regulations for you. And we do the same thing in government and financial services and manufacturing. So that's the essence of our strategy.
The product line?
Mm-hmm.
Can you go through the...
Sure. So the product lines that are part of this are, in this particular area, are Lifecycle and Flex. And what Lifecycle offers is a set of document services that enable you to generate documents, to orchestrate the actions that are taken on those documents, and also apply security to documents. So, for example, going back to a example of the clinical trial management, you need to send out invitation letters to all the clinics. That's a customized mailing that you need to send out, and it's got specific information to the doctors that's personalized for them. You need to generate all those letters and send them out. Well, we have a solution that allows you to fill out a template and then hook it up to a database of your doctors. It inputs all that information, generates the letters, and sends it out in a customized way. That could then invite the doctors to come online and sign up to participate in the trial. When they come online, so we have a solution as part of Lifecycle, which is called Lifecycle PDF Generator and Assembler, which would do that. Then we have, when the doctors come online, they need to apply to join the trial. So they would come in and they would enter in their physician number. We would then pre-populate the form that they're filling out with all their information, because we already know who the doctor is. They don't have to enter the same information all over again. But they fill out what they want to do, a little bit of additional information about their approach to the trial, and then they submit that data. That comes back to us as a form through what we call Lifecycle Forms. And Lifecycle Forms would then have that data in a captured form. Then we have what we call Lifecycle Workflow, which comes into the picture where that form comes in. Now it needs to be routed to various people. Parts of the information need to go to various people for approval and to actually say, yes, this doctor has a good approach to the clinic, we like what he's doing, want to admit him to the program. That needs to be a decision maybe between us 3 people. So the workflow engine would route it to the appropriate people, gather the approvals, and then at the end, it would then send a notification back to the doctor saying you've been approved. And that could be in the form of a email with an attachment to it that has a personalized document. So all these places along the way, we've got documents being created, documents being submitted back, routing happening, documents being generated. That all happens with lifecycle technology. The other thing that's important here is the privacy of this information and the security of it. A couple different areas there. One is we have a document security server which offers digital signature capability. In the life sciences industry, many of these doctors have been issued digital signatures, and so when they actually submit patient information, they need to sign that document saying this really is coming from me, the doctor, and that's unique to them. They can digitally sign the document, and it's just as trackable and traceable in a court of law as a wet signature would be with a pen, but it's all electronic. So it's the same properties of physical documents, but in the electronic world. Also, the documents are many times carrying proprietary information or private information of patients, so you have to protect that. So the documents are encrypted, but they're not only encrypted, they are locked down with identities for what we call rights management. And this allows you to do the same type of rights management that people do for music files or movies, DRM essentially, but for documents in a business context. This is really valuable in that if the doctor, say he gets a document that is secure, or we get a document that is secure and contains patient information, if I was to actually be in my email program and I accidentally forwarded that email to my friend, I got the address wrong, I put in, Jean, and I meant to put in Jean. And it automatically completed, and I hit submit, and it sent it off to my friend Jean. Oh man, that's a real problem, right? Well, if Jean gets that document, she opens it up, and it asks her for a password. And if she doesn't have the password, she can't open the document because it's locked down using our rights management capability. So that's one aspect of it. But it also gets, it's even more interesting. For example, suppose that we are doing this clinical trial and we have information that we've sent out to the doctors. And we send it all out to 1,000 doctors. The next day, someone discovers that there was a mistake. That we told them that for the trial, they need to put in 100 milligrams, or they need to put in 1,000, 100 milligrams, and in fact it's 1,000 milligrams, or even the other way around. There was just a missing zero. And if patients take 1,000 milligrams, they're going to die. Okay, we just sent that out to 1,000 doctors. That's a really huge problem. Well, what do? We could call all the doctors. Maybe we should do that anyway. But what we can also do is take if the document that we sent out has rights management applied to it, we can expire that document. We can say that document is no longer valid, and then put a link in for the document that is valid. The next time a doctor opens up that document that's then expired, it will say the document has expired. It will connect back to our server and say, this document is expired. Here's where to get a new one. That prevents us from disseminating, misleading or mistaken information. So it's a way of keeping control of information even when it's distributed outside the firewall. And that's handled through what we call Lifecycle Policy Server. So this is all of these. That Lifecycle line has a broad variety of functionalities related to producing documents, applying security to documents, and so forth. And it really helps in these areas.
So who would be the main competitors in that lifecycle part of the line?
Well, there are point competitors in each of the different areas, but nobody has the full breadth of the line that we have with Lifecycle. So there are companies like Authentica and Liquid Machines in the rights management space that I was just talking about. In the forms area, there's IBM PureEdge and other companies out there. In the document generation technology, there's companies such as Extreme and Document Sciences and stuff that do document generation and output. But what nobody has done is bring together all of those, what we call document services, together and integrated them in a way that allows you to orchestrate them together as well, as we've done with Lifecycle. And that's the big differentiator. If you just want a form solution, we think we're still a great form solution, and in fact it's not just what we believe. Industry analysts have actually said that we have one of the leading solutions there. So in each of our individual products, we try to be a leader, but more importantly, we try to integrate them together as a platform. Sorry about that. So that's those are just a few of the people that we compete with.
Okay, great.
So another product line then is it's a big part of it is the Flex product line. And the Flex product line is about creating what we call rich internet applications that run in the Flash player and take advantage of data visualization, guided activities, and much more responsive user interfaces than what you could do with traditional web technology. You can think about it as high definition web as opposed to normal television web. And Flex is a programming framework that developers use to create applications that run in the Flash player. And we have a tool. So there's what we call the Flex SDK, and that's free for anybody to use. A lot of developers are using it here at the show. We have Flex Builder, which is a developer tool that you can use. $749 a seat, so a very affordable developer tool. And then we have what's called Flex Data Services, which is a set of capability that you install on your Java application server for connecting Flex applications into your back-end middleware. And you can also do things like data streaming. With traditional web applications, if you don't ask for the server for data, it doesn't send any. But suppose the server had information that it needed to tell you, like for example, an alert about information like a stock trade just went through or something. Until you ask the server, it can't tell you that. With Flex, it has messaging so that you can actually If the server has information it needs to send you, it can alert you on the push the data. Exactly. It can also do streaming of data, such as stock quotes, where we're sending 500 updates a second. It can also do management of larger data sets. So if you're dealing with a database of 20,000 different entries, well, you could get all 20,000 entries and bring them down to the client and sort and filter them, but that would take some more time and be a little more cumbersome. You could also just have the server and the client cooperate to bring you the data that actually you're displaying on the screen, instead of having to send it all at once. So that's what data services provides, and that runs in your J2 application server. So that's the Flex product line. And what we're doing for the future is bringing those two product lines and technology stacks together to solve these problems in more interesting ways. Yesterday you saw an example of a insurance claim form being done online, and the experience was very fluid and easy to understand from the end user's perspective. But it was essentially, it was a form, it was a data capture experience, but it was very nice and had a lot of help and assistance and validation in it. Well, that's an example of this merger. It's got Flex technology being applied to the problem of data capture in one of these customer engagement applications. And still at the end of the process, a bunch of documents are going to get created, but when you go through that data capture experience, the data is going to get populated into a form that's still going to get routed around internally, just as any other form would, but it's a much more effective experience for the end user. At the end of it, it'll produce a set of documents that will come out. So we're finding that by bringing the technologies together, we can actually solve a whole range of problems. With these customer engagement processes, typically there are what we call on-ramps and off-ramps. On-ramps into a process are, many business processes take, a fair amount of time with a lot of people involved, but usually they start with a customer or a supplier or a partner having to fill out some information. It could be an order, it could be a claim, it could be a new account. Somebody's got to enter some data and submit it. And then a lot of things happen to the data. And then at the end, the data actually, something gets approved, documents have to be created and sent out to the customer. We're focused on those on-ramps and off-ramps. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Great. So that's the kind of product line overview. Okay.
Gervais Restaurant, authentic French cuisine in Silicon Valley.